So yeah, welcome everybody. Welcome to our, I think now third webinar in the that we are um, sharing in the ASET series of webinars. Thank you so much for joining. Our focus today will be on how Zeto accommodates different hair types. I will not be diving too much into the technology, but just a brief introduction. My name is Florian Strelzig. I'm the head of sales at Zeto. I'm also a psychobiologist for my PhD. So I've been working with EEG for some time, looked at the effects of glucocorticoids on the central nervous system using EEG and MRI. I'm also joined by Irina, our marketing manager, and John Crawford. He is a veteran in the EEG tech space. He's been in EEG tech now, JC, was it 20 or 25 years?
26 years on the clinical side before I came over to the dark side.
Okay. Well, do you want to introduce yourself real briefly?
Yeah, so real quick, I spent 26 years on the clinical side, registries, EEG, evoked potentials, nerve conduction studies, sleep, certified long-term monitoring, all these kind of fun things. What you'll find is, before I came over to industry, I ran the Epilepsy Center at the University of Florida. On paper, it looks like I know what I'm talking about. My good friends will tell you it's about half the time, but I will try to answer your questions that you guys have, and I will tell you the goods, the bads, and the mediums.
Okay, I'll take it with the ugly then. Awesome. So today, this is a presentation about a product, a commercial product from Zeto. So everybody here on the call either works for Zeto or with Zeto, just as a disclaimer. But we have several in the field customers, private practice neurologists or hospitals that are using this system on a daily basis, and we're happy to share some KOL, some references with them also. So without further ado, quick introduction. There are different types of ways of characterizing hair. There's a popular one from Andre Walker. He splits it into 4 types: straight, wavy, curly, kinky, and then subtypes also. And with traditional EEG, we know that it's always about prepping the scalp, applying gel and paste. And with different hairstyles, it's just, or hair types also, it's always a little bit more complicated. We want to dive into the most challenging ones that are currently they're usually the curly and kinky type of hair. Then you can kind of look into the challenges there. It's always a challenge of accessing the scalp, and to do this in a way that is comfortable for the patient. And I'm not going to read through all these details, but it's all translates into setup time and patient comfort. The biggest challenge really is that this curly and kinky hair has a little bit springiness to it. So you have to apply somewhat of a downward force, a little bit of pressure to keep it on. So when individually gluing and pasting electrodes, you're always fighting that hair a little bit. Plus, of course, you have to part, measure, mark, and then place that electrode. That really, really translates into a longer setup time. Now, what Zeto has done is we translated the more traditional way of setup from a wired setup, which all of us know. You have a disc or a ring or a pin that has a cable 4 to 6 feet to a head box or to an amplifier, and that's where your signal gets digitized. You have your AD converter there. But anything that happens from the way, from the scalp all the way to the amp becomes part of your EEG signal. And that can really be a challenge because you're picking up environmental noise, you're picking up a whole bunch of things. Now with Zeto, we're using this more helmet-looking approach. Looks a little bit like a bicycle helmet. It works like that. You can size adjust this device to accommodate head sizes between 48 centimeters head circumference to 62 centimeters head circumference. Now that provides some benefits. You're 1020 system compliant. The electrodes are preset at their specific locations. You can fine adjust the lateralities. You have these numbers here on the side. So as long as you match the numbers of the headbands on the side with the numbers of the individual electrodes, then you're pretty darn close to the 1020 system. But the real advantage from Zeto is that instead of using traditional electrodes that require gel, by the way, does everybody see my screen? I don't want to be talking into nothingness. JC?
Yes, Florian.
Oh, I'm sorry, Florian. I was nodding and I turned my mic off. Yes, we can see you.
Yeah, so traditional EEG, you have these long lead wires. You have an electrode pin and you have a gel layer, and then you put this on your scalp, the epidermis, and of course we have a lot of skin layers and bone and all that stuff that's between the brain and the actual electrode. And you create a skin electrode interface. You're using gel or paste, and the preamp really is pretty far away. Now, what we do at Zeto, we're moving the preamp all the way on top of the electrode, and as a result, we do not need skin prep. I'm not going to dive more into this. We had an entire webinar on active electrodes and how they work. I can only point you to that, so please watch that. I know it's archived. But long story short, we have a lot shorter wire, plus we have the preamp right next to the electrode, right on top of it. So as a result, no skin prep. That is what this looks like. You have a preamplification chip that's sandwiched between two pieces of plastic. You have a magnet that hold our electrode tips, and that's really it. And as a result, we can also overcome some more challenging hair types. We have electrodes that are flat. I'm gonna hold it up. That's more for the forehead, and we have electrodes that have little legs on them. They're springy, they're long, and they have a little bit of a electrode, a little bit of a gel tip to it, but it's like a dry gel, so it doesn't leave any residue. It just makes it more comfortable and decreases the setup time. Can you all see Sean? Awesome. Hello, everyone.
Yes, hi, Sean.
So what I've already done, I've already placed individual electrodes. Now, all of you should see a little video on the top right, which is a separate video from the webinar video. You will also see, as I'm moving the headset, you can see a little headset dummy that moves left and right. I'm going to switch to full screen mode. So I'm going to hit the record button, so we have a little bit of a count of how long it will take us to get this done. So what I'm doing, which is maybe a little bit different from a setup with straight hair, I want to make sure that the electrodes are placed nicely. So we have these three legs. I don't want any of these legs to be bent under weirdly. So I just made sure that all of these are placed well before I'm engaging the headbands. So now I'm tightening the band a little bit. And as I'm doing this, I want to make sure that the electrode legs are touching the scalp. So I'm literally taking my fingers and I'm manipulating these legs to get through the hair. Think of it like little Q-tips that you kind of wobble through the hair until it touches the scalp. So we're at about the halfway point, and let's see how many electrodes already give us some signal. And you see a good amount already do. And we really only have the P band and maybe a 1 or 2 that I still need to pay attention to a little bit. So the way it looks right now, we are on all yellow. That's a good point. We're at about a 4-minute mark. And I think all the text in here, you recognize that it might have a little bit of muscle tone at T3. So I'm looking at this using a referential montage. Now I have a choice. Yellow just means I'm picking up a little bit more 60 Hertz line noise than we know is possible. And I can actually go down with the resolution. So you see a little bit more EEG. Let's go to 10 microvolt per millimeters. And you see we're picking up some muscle tone on T3. So relax a little bit. Very good. Maybe that goes away. And then close your eyes and let's get some alpha. Alpha is a wave that your brain produces. So now I have a choice. So we're about at the 5-minute mark. I can fiddle on with the electrodes longer and make them all go green, or I can wait for the electrodes to settle longer on their own. And here it's a little bit a question of what your goals are. Is your goal to say seizure, no seizure? Do you need this for triaging? Do you need this for regular routine EEG? What is your goal for this study? By just waiting here a little bit, all these yellows will turn green, but on their own. But if your goal is just, hey, we need to see the seizing, where the seizing, then this is pretty much as you have to do to answer that question.
I have a question. Sean, how do you feel?
I feel pretty good. You know, it's a little bit of pressure, but it's very comfortable, and you know, it's not squeezing my head.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, thank you, Sean. So what I did, the recording is still ongoing, but I switched to something we call a review mode, where you can look through everything that's already been recorded. And just want to show you a little bit of the features here. We can do a spectral analysis real quick and kind of see where the alpha is, what that looks like. We can also engage something we call an artifact reduction. That's an algorithm that pulls out muscle artifacts and certain settling artifacts from the electrodes. So here you see we have this really well-defined muscle tone in the background. And that is in the red color, and black is the artifact corrected. So it's an FDA-cleared algorithm that pulls out things like muscle artifact, and you can see the before and after. And it's a pretty nifty algorithm, especially in situations like that. So I think the situation here, we simply, you see FC is green, CZ is going to turn green in a moment, PZ just turned green. So I think with this particular recording, the electrodes will settle on their own, probably better than me messing with them. Because whenever you mess with the electrodes, you kind of restart this entire settling process on the skin electrode interface. You see we're now down to maybe 3-4 electrodes, but anything yellow is, we are just indicating that there is a little bit more to close the gap, but usually yellow is good enough to start the read. And you see, as we're just waiting here, these channels are turning green on their own.
Hey, Florian, we do have one more question here. So this
Yeah.
is from Stuan. And the question is, do all studies need to be done sitting up? Florian, I'll let you tackle this one, or I'm happy to tackle it too.
Well, for this webinar now, it was easiest to do it sitting up, but no, you can have this slightly reclined. What we recommend is to use a towel roll or a neck pillow to just make sure that the back of the headset does not touch, so not touch the back of the bed or the chair. So you see here, there is about a good height in the back of the headset. We don't want the headset to be touching anything. So in regular hospitals or reclined positions, we just, you roll up the towel as thick as you need it for the neck to kind of be propped up a little bit. And now, guys, you see PZ, CZ, FC kind of turned green on their own. O1 will follow soon next. So you see the electrode settle on their own, and the signal quality becomes better over time. So now we here have Destiny.
Hello.
Awesome. Very good. Everybody should see her now. We're good? Great. Okay. How's this for you? Okay. So now I'm starting to engage the headbands. And you can't really see it that well. I'll move the camera. Actually, I'll move the camera closer right now. Now, do you see this a little bit better, what I'm doing?
Yes, yes, we see.
So
And if you can,
what I'm
yeah.
doing now, I'm adjusting the headband, and I'm literally just wobbling the electrode to get through to the scalp.
Thank you for showing this.
Now, what you don't see right now as well, it's pretty springy hair. I think you'd be struggling with the traditional electrode a little bit more to keep it down, especially in the back. If you're starting at the P band, the hair starts to become very springy. But since we can apply a downward force a little bit through the headband, we actually can get through the hair quite nicely. So I think my most challenging part here with this volunteer is it's going to be the back. But let's see. So here you also see that a good amount of these electrodes are already green. And now I need to decide, do I want to wait for these electrodes to settle? And you see some of them are already settling on their own. Or do I see some that I probably should address? For example, O2, I think I have to address. What I usually do, I step back 2 steps physically, and then I step closer. So 5 seconds, 6 seconds, it depends a little bit.
So from a clinical standpoint, what we very often recommend is take an alcohol swab and swab back behind the ears on the mastoids, just to remove any body oils, any conditioners, or if you have somebody like me that should be a very easy hookup, I put lotion on my head. So getting that lotion from behind the ears on the mastoid would be advantageous.
So now I'm just going to wait. Yeah, guys, you know what I'm going to do? And that's also a nice thing to show. I can swap out an electrode while it's on the head. And that gives me the ability to kind of push the hair back a little bit and then apply a fake.
And hey, Florian, sometimes it helps to move that slider back and forth just a little bit, maybe to like a 2 setting or a 4 setting.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because sometimes that'll push the hair sideways too, so you can have a little bit of a lateral motion there to help with that.
Yeah, I just did that. That was a secret. Thank you, JC. And now close your eyes. Relax.
That's good. Any questions? If you have any questions, please ask or ask us in the chat.
Now, can you give us some jaw clenches, like you're chewing gum? Yeah, so you see muscle activity. Perfect, thank you. Good. Yeah, any questions?
I don't
Sharonda,
have any
do you have any questions?
Sharonda, you're on mute if you were going to ask a question. There you go.
No, I was having issues getting into this into here and also trying to get my microphone situated. I was going to say what is done for the patients that have like box braids or like locks and where it's harder to get to the scalp. Like how do we go about that? Because I encountered patients whenever I'm trying to do an EEG, and it was always hard to get them to stick. Or a patient that wore a wig and it wouldn't come off from like in this area right here. How would we handle those situations?
So those are great questions, Sharonda. Let's start with the wig first. With the wig, it's just like traditional EEG. Those electrodes have to be able to touch skin. So let's say the wig only peeled back and then it was kind of sewn in from this point going backwards. It has to come out. We have to be able to touch skin, or if they're using like a netting, then sometimes you can separate that netting a little bit, just like we would with traditional EEG. with braids and everything, kind of like cornrows or everything like that. There's an advantage sometimes to the Zeto electrode because it has this three prong aspect to it. So sometimes you can rotate those three prongs to straddle the braid, or actually put one leg straight through the braid, just as long as it's touching skin. Uh, if we're talking about micro braids come in like different flavors, right? There's people that have micro braids that are they're not very robust, and then we have people with like tons. If it's very mild, as long as the headset can sit on and it can touch skin, you're in business. If it's very robust micro braids where there's gaps in the headset, you just feed those micro braids out through the headset just to give yourself room so the headset could sit down onto the skin.
Hello.
Whoa.
And then
Okay,
while
we're
Florian's
back
getting
again.
all set up again, guys, the other piece to think about is what are we looking for here? So in some cases, I mean, if we're looking for outpatients, I absolutely want the most ideal signal. But if we were using this in an ICU overnight and we're trying to answer the question or seizure or no seizure, and in particular last case where Florian was having trouble with F7, the answer would have been, hey, we can probably already answer that question without worrying about F7. So we could have probably got to our answer, what we're looking for clinically, much sooner. But once again, ideally, we want the best signal. But sometimes we go, overnight in ICU if we're trying to rule out status, no status. Sometimes we can answer that with a lot fewer electrodes if a couple of them are messy.
So again, my first goal here is to make sure that my electrodes don't have a bent leg or something. And that I'm generally good with the positioning of the headset. And what I'll do here, there's a few nice braids that will show us how the electrodes move past them. So I'm going to move my camera here in a moment so you see exactly how we deal with that. So what's happening here, I'm showing you the braid that the electrode is going over, or the twist. So right now I have the leg. I'm going to use another electrode to show you what's happening. I have it literally go over like this. Do you see that?
Okay. So for everybody watching, the time we're going by is in the upper right-hand corner. So as soon as Florian hit record, there's a flashing red light, and then there's an elapsed time indicator next to it, letting you know how much time has elapsed since Florian hit record. So he's made some adjustments. He's standing back, and this is one of the hardest things for EEG techs to do. We're so used to making an adjustment, scrubbing the headset, putting the electrode back down, and if it doesn't immediately become green, we immediately touch it again. And that's not what you want to do in this case.
Mark to you 4 minutes, 20 seconds.
There you go. There's your, hold on.
Well, maybe, okay, I might have.
No, it'll settle down because all of them look good. So from a tech standpoint, guys, what I want my techs always to do is look at your waveforms. Those contact quality indicators is a moving algorithm. It takes 8 seconds of data before it will change colors. But if you see that, hey, I'm getting good quality waveforms, those contact quality indicators on the right-hand side will catch up and display appropriately.
Now, could you close your eyes? Oh, you're already doing this. Great. Wonderful. Now, let's wait for CZ. I think CZ will settle down on its own, but if it doesn't do that within the next few seconds, I will intervene. But you see, it's actually settling down nicely. Yeah, CC is still a little bit wobbly. I'm going to just wiggle it through the hair. Okay, so I'm going to go to the scroll back mode and review mode. Oh, see, C4 is now good. So it is starting to settle on its own also. And we're about 6 minutes into the recording. Again, it depends a little bit on your scenario. If you really just want to triage a patient and see what's going on with them, then at this point, let's look for the first good data point that we had. You could have probably already started seeing seizure, no seizure at 3 minutes, 50 seconds. No, that would have been the first one. Probably around here, you could already see what's going on, if they're in status or not. But I think by the time we were at the 5-minute mark, so here she closed her eyes. Now what I saw her do is, when you close your eyes were kind of moving. I saw that.
Yeah.
And so we see there's an FP1, FP2 here. But regardless, we see some slowdown in the back. So let's look at that. So just what we would expect. This is a little bit nicer here. So let's do an FFT on this part. So you see a very nice peak at 10 hertz in the occipital area. And we can also switch to a bipolar montage, and you kind of see what that looks like. Again, this is also at about 10 hertz. Here she has her eyes open again, and you see the clear difference between eyes open and eyes closed. So this was kind of what we wanted to show you guys, because I think seeing is believing. We can write whatever we want in the online or in some application. It's really we need to see how it works. One thing you might notice here, we see some R peaks from the EKG, from some R peaks. So it's probably that one of these reference electrodes was sitting a little bit on a flat vessel. So I'm just going to reposition this slightly, and that should disappear. So we're not beating physics here. You'll still see sweat artifacts, movement artifacts. You'll still see the R peak. So Zeto is not beating physics. You still get all your biogenic artifacts that you're used to, but we make it faster for you to set it up, especially with challenging hairstyles, without the need of glue or gel or paste or something like that. So that's kind of what I wanted to share. JC, anything else you wanted to comment on?
So Suan actually just asked a comment. So with a generalized tonic-clonic patient, the patient will be shaking a lot. Does the headset lose connection during heating and shaking? So Suan, if you don't mind, Florian, I'll answer this question. So
Yeah, go ahead.
So Suan, with this, I mean, think of it like traditional EEG, very similar, right? So with traditional EEG during a GTC, I mean, you have movement, you have twitching of extremities, maybe jerking of the head, even banging back against the bed. I mean, traditional EEG electrodes, as maybe you'll see the onset of the seizure, and then once they actually get into the GTC part of it, I mean, you end up with artifacts. With us, you would get the exact same thing. When that headset is banging back against the bed or moving onto the side, that is where you're going to get those artifacts, just like you would with traditional EEG. There's just no way around that. That's just pure physics. However, once the person stops, the EEG will record and come back to normal fairly darn quickly. You know, just like you see with traditional EEG, when the seizure's over and they stop banging their electrodes back against the bed or against the side of the bed, it returns to normal. Same with us.
So, and now that it stopped the recording, you also see the high resolution video uploading. So we had a live video stream that gives you that in lower resolution. But once the recording is done, we're now uploading a high-res video that you can then review synchronized once it's fully uploaded. So you really have the ability to even zoom in and see what happened with the patient and go from there. But yeah, I think from my side, I'm happy that you are able to get 3 head models in to show you how this really works. Feel free to email us, ask any questions, and maybe suggest other topics for other webinars. So let us know what you'd like to see about Zeto. Happy to set up another one. Irina, any closing words?
Yes, so we are going to many conferences, including many ACET local events. So if you see us, please stop by. It's always better to do a demo and touch and like, so please stop by, send us questions. We will be happy to answer. So, and to see you in person as well. So thank you very much for joining the webinar.